Hello and welcome. Tonight, Nigeria's Senate summons the National Security Advisor and other intelligence agencies over allegations of USAID-funded terrorist group Boko Haram. Attorney General of the Federation, Lateef Fagbemi, describes the legal dissolution and taking over of local government administrations by state governors as a treasonable offense. National Judicial Council says that Justice Maurice Ikwebese remains the Chief Judge of Benue State until the complaints brought against him are investigated and deliberated upon by the Council. And U.S. President Donald Trump launches a fresh attack on Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, calling him a dictator.
On business news tonight, tech giant Microsoft launches $1 million initiative to train 1 million Nigerians in AI skills over the next 2 years.
On sports news tonight, Borussia Dortmund cruises into the last 16 of the Champions League after a goalless draw with Sporting.
Issue at the Benue State House of Assembly just 1 day after lawmakers in the House announced the suspension of the Chief Judge of the state, Justice Maurice Ikwebese. The National Judicial Council has now described that action as illegal, therefore a nullity. The NJC, in the statement by its spokesperson Kemi Ogedengbe, says the justice remains the state chief judge until the complaints brought against him are investigated and deliberated upon by the council. The council reiterates that there were clear and unambiguous provisions of the 1999 Constitution on discipline and appointments of judicial officers vested in the council, which clearly were not adhered to in the instant case. The statement adds that the council had received a petition against the chief judge, which is yet to be investigated in line with the council's investigation procedure and its principles. Meanwhile, the Benue State House of Assembly, led by the Speaker, Mr. Aondana Adajo, has suspended the 13 lawmakers who rejected the move to suspend the state chief judge for a period of 3 months. The House, in a motion raised by the Majority Leader, Mr. Sisia, says that the suspension of the 13 lawmakers alleging mischief on their part. In a swift reaction, however, the suspended lawmakers, led by Douglas Akia, faulted their suspension. Based on a letter by Governor Hyacinth Alia of Benue State, members of the Benue State House of Assembly resolved to remove the Chief Judge of the state, Justice Maurice Ikwebese. However, 13 of the lawmakers rejected the decision of the Assembly, which has drawn the annoyance of their colleagues.
The same people that voted, some of them even raised their 2 hands. The video is here. So what is the image? 13 people, 23 people voted out of 30 members that were sitting down, and the same 13 people are saying they were not part of that. The House resolved that they should be suspended for 3 months. And the House also resolved that, Clark, you write to them, let them refund the money for the trip to the Ministry of Finance, because the Ministry of Finance that paid them, let them refund it. And you also write to the consultant to return their passport. Is that one taken?
If they wanted, there's nothing they could have done. Rather, maybe they will bring another motion some other day. You can't discuss a thing that has been concluded on the floor, outside the House, because even at the floor, you have to bring a motion to let the House allow you to bring it if there are new facts you have discovered. So that was not good conduct, it was not honorable, it was disrespectful to the House, and by our rules, they are due to be suspended and we just upheld their suspension.
Nevertheless, the 13 lawmakers are rejecting the suspension.
Yesterday, we had a press conference where we disassociated ourselves from the purported removal of the chief judge. We fought to instill fairness, equitable and fair hearing, which were completely abandoned or ignored at yesterday's proceedings. Today, we have been suspended for standing against the arbitrariness, unlawful and tyrannical practiced by the House of Assembly.
The suspended lawmakers maintain that the action of the Assembly to remove the Chief Judge is illegal. To other stories now. The National Assembly, where the Senate is launching the investigation into allegations that U.S. funding agency funded terrorist group Boko Haram. To get to the bottom of this, the Senate has summoned the National Security Advisor, the Director of the Department of State Services, the Director of the National Intelligence Agency, and other intelligence officers. This follows a motion of urgent importance raised by Senator Ali Ndume over allegations that international organizations may be funding terrorist groups like Boko Haram. Our National Assembly correspondent, Gloria Umezoke, reports.
Days after a bombshell congressional hearing accusing the United States Agency for International Development of allegedly funding Boko Haram, lawmakers in the Senate are taking the claim seriously.
Funding of Boko Haram.
In a motion moved by Senator Ali Ndume, they launch a fact-finding mission to investigate the allegations.
Further notes that over the years, the modus operandi of Boko Haram in Nigeria has been a source of great concern. Urgent need for steps to be taken by the federal government to unravel the mystery behind this whole episode.
The claim comes shortly after the Chief of Staff, General Christopher Musa, raised alarm that terrorist groups in the country are receiving sponsorship and training from international organizations.
We need to be briefed, first and foremost, by the heads of various security agencies in a closed-door session.
Other lawmakers immediately align with the motion.
If there's anything to lead us to where this problem is coming from, of course we should take the advantage. We should see that advantage to see how we can deal with this serious calamity.
The investigation is going on right now in the United States Congress. The President, Donald Trump, also said specifically that in that investigation, the support given to Nigeria so far should also be investigated.
A resolution is adopted.
The Senate should immediately invite the National Security Advisor, the Director General of the Nigerian Intelligence Agency, the Director General of the DSS, the Director General of the DIA, to brief the Senate in a closed session on the veracity or otherwise of these very serious allegations. Say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it.
Separately, against the backdrop of another motion raised by Senator Joel Onawakwo Thomas, lawmakers paid glowing tributes to late elder statesman and former lawmaker Pa Edwin Clark, who died on Monday night and wants a national monument named after him.
Clark was a self-described leader of the John Nation.
A minute's silence is then observed. The Senate has now resolved to ask the federal government to immortalize the late iconic leader, Pa Edwin Clark, and also send a delegation to extend condolences to the family, the Ijaw people, and the government of Delta State. From the National Assembly, Gloria Umezoke, Channels Television News.
From the Senate to the Green Chamber, where the attention of the House is wading into the security situation in Osun State, it has now resolved to set up an ad hoc committee to carry out an investigation. The resolution of the House is coming after considering a motion from Honorable Bamidele Salam calling for urgent intervention to avoid further crisis in the state. The House is also asking security agencies to ensure that peace is restored in Osun. Our National Assembly correspondent Terry Kumi has details of this and more from the House.
The next motion is coming.
Members of the Osun State Caucus of the House of Representatives draw attention of Parliament to the deteriorating security situation in the state.
Take proactive steps.
Through a motion of urgent national importance, Honorable Bamidele Salam, on behalf of the caucus, appeals to the House to intervene urgently.
The House notes that on Monday, the 17th of February 2025, violence broke out in several parts of Osun State as a result of attempts to take over the administration of local government by officials who were sacked by 2 court judgments in November of 2022. Disturbed that the sacked officials are now breaking the gate of their respective local government secretariats to forcefully take over the local government without recourse to law and due process.
All the prayers, except that of the 1 minute silence,
should be deleted, while the House, not to be seen as being partisan, to call for a committee to investigate this matter, and the outcome of the committee will give us an informed decision.
It is always a bit dangerous for us to take decision without investigating the matter ourselves. Before we take a position with finality, we need to do the investigation, conduct the investigation ourselves. So whatever happened, we put it in the legal term, allegation, alleged until it is proven, isn't it? So it is in that context I felt that what Honorable Isiaka is proposing is a good one.
The House resolves to urge the security heads to ensure that peace is restored in the state and constitute an ad hoc committee to carry out an investigation to report back within a week.
Mr. Speaker.
Meanwhile, the attention of the House has been drawn to an impending danger along the Lokoja Highway.
Consigned that on Monday, 17th of February 2025, a very strategic accident occurred involving about 10 students of the Federal University of Lokoja alongside driver conveying them, and articulated trucks carrying woods ran into the school shuttle bus conveying students, leading to the loss of their lives. Also consigned that along this particular route, many students of Kogi State Polytechnic and residents of Lokoja, neighboring Felili and immediate communities or travelers have met their untimely deaths.
The House of Representatives also observed a moment of silence for late Chief Edwin Clark. Terry Ikumi, Channels Television News.
Please proceed.
Since the Supreme Court judgment, which granted full autonomy to local governments, the Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice, Mr. Lateef Fagbemi, has not missed any opportunity to rein in today. Well, today, the AGF described the legal dissolution and the taking over of local government administration by state governors as a treasonable offense. Mr. Fagbemi stated this at the Nigerian Bar Association Dialogue on Local Government Administration in Abuja, where he was represented by the Director of Civil Appeals in the ministry.
The Nigerian Bar Association is convening this high-level discussion on local government administration following the Supreme Court judgment on the autonomy of the third tier of government. Themed Strengthening the Local Government Autonomy in Nigeria, the NBA president gives a background to the conversation.
That in the last few days, up to 10 persons are reported to have lost their lives in Osun State as a result of supremacy battle between the People's Democratic Party and All Progressive Congress over control of the local governments in Osun State. The issue of democracy at the local government level remains a burning issue which should get all of us worried.
The Supreme Court judgment on local government autonomy formed the basis for discussion at the opening session, and a retired justice of the Apex Court has a charge for legal practitioners in the country.
For how long will our constitutional law remain an ass, doing nothing to prevent and punish the malignant evil to the society it was erected to guard, and protect? We cannot effectively fight this cause unless we inculcate in ourselves the principle of equity, insisting that we cannot come to equity with soiled and unclean hands.
The session is attended by state commissioners of justice, and a representative of the Attorney General of the Federation has strong words for states that have disregarded the Supreme Court judgment on local government autonomy.
Despite the judgment of the Supreme Court, outlawing the illegal removal of democratically elected local government councils by state governors, it is quite unfortunate that few states have continued to blatantly carry on with this illegality. Let me state in unequivocal terms that this act is tantamount to treason and must be treated as such. There is a worrisome trend in the legal profession these days, where lawyers, including the state attorneys general, allow their clients and political leaders to dictate the law to them when it should be the other way around.
The The NBA is hoping to make recommendations that will ensure the full implementation of the Supreme Court judgment on local government autonomy to strengthen the local government administration in the country.
In part two, after the break, Vice President Kashim Shettima says that Nigeria is determined to take advantage of the global digital trade market, which is projected to hit $16 trillion by the year 2028. Please join us again. Welcome back. If you've just joined us, you're watching the news at 10 on Channels Television, broadcasting live from Lagos. A reminder of our main stories. Nigeria Senate summons the National Security Advisor and other intelligence agencies over allegations that USAID funded terrorist group Boko Haram. Attorney General of the Federation, Lateef Fagbemi, decries illegal dissolution and takeover of local government administrations by state governors as a treasonable offense. National Judicial Council says that Justice Maurice Ikpabese remains the Chief Judge of Benue State until the complaints brought against him are investigated and deliberated upon by the Council. And U.S. President Donald Trump launches fresh attack on Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, calling him a dictator. We head to Gombe State now, where the government today held a summit for its 11 local government councils with a theme: local government autonomy, fiscal responsibility, and sustainable development. According to the governor, Inowa Yahia, the summit is part of his government's broader plan to create an all-round development at the grassroots by leveraging on strong financial stability and autonomous local governments. The chairman of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, Ola Olukoyede, and the chairman of the Independent Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Commission, Musa Aliyu, were keynote speakers at the event.
Unprecedented judicious resource management and utilization.
The Gombe International Conference Center is filled to capacity as local council chairman and staff from the 11 local government areas of the state gather for the opening ceremony of the Gombe State Local Government Summit. Governor Inowa Yahia, who's the chief host, walks into the hall with the EFCC chairman, Ola Olukoyede, and the ICPC chairman, Musa Aliyu, who are the keynote speakers at the event.
Ordinary path of transformation.
The governor of Gombe State, Inowa Yahia, mounts the podium to deliver his address, highlighting, through Gombe State's personal example, the significance of local governments as crucible of sustainable development.
The impact of governance is most felt, and it is here that we must ensure that our systems are robust, efficient, and responsive to the needs of the people. A strong, well-governed, and financially autonomous local government system is critical to achieving grassroots development and ensuring that no community is left behind.
Next, the EFCC chairman presents his lecture on the nonsense and shades of economic and financial crimes in Nigeria as he commends Gombe State for championing local government autonomy.
I'd like to thank Your Excellency for the demonstration of accountability, transparency, commitment to good governance from the clip we have just seen now.
Commission, Dr. Musa Aliyu.
While revealing that no single local government in Gombe State is facing charges of corrupt practices from his commission, the ICPC chairman, Musa Aliyu, advises council chairmen to resist the temptation and pressure that would lure them into corruption.
All of us should put hard on deck to ensure that we combat corruption and abuse of office at all levels of government so that we can have a better Nigeria.
The representative of the Secretary to the Federal Government, Mr. Nadungu Gagare, acknowledges that the fact that the state's governor has set new standards by taking developmental projects to the rural areas in line with President Bola Tinubu's renewed hope agenda.
Thank you. The renewed hope agenda template also recognizes that accomplishing all these objectives demand that difficult choices must be made. Instant policies must be reviewed new policies and practices must be initiated, and our revenue base must be consolidated and enhanced.
As the Inuayaya government recommits to the rapid urbanization of rural communities, council chairpersons say they have been enjoying autonomy even before the Supreme Court judgment of 2024.
Let's continue the news at 10 now as we head over to Abuja studios where Millicent Walker is standing by. Hello, Millicent.
Hi, Anne. Lovely to see you. And now to the global digital trade market that is projected to hit $16 trillion by 2028. And that's according to the Vice President, Kashim Shettima, who was represented by the Minister of Industry, Trade and Investment, Jumoke Oduwole, at a two-day workshop on digital trade and global marketing in Abuja. Our State House correspondent, Emperor Simon, reports.
Heads of various federal ministries, agencies and parastatals, representatives from across the states, private sector players and international partners have converged on the State House Conference Center for the African Continental Free Trade Area Digital Trade Workshop and Global Marketing aimed at unlocking Nigeria's exports potential.
Technology is revolutionizing trade. AI, big data analytics and automation are now essential for supply chain efficiency and market access. And for Nigeria to compete effectively, we must integrate AI in digital trade, digital documentation and real-time trade platforms.
The global digital trade market is projected to reach $16.5 trillion by 2028, and speakers believe with the right policies in place, Nigeria can tap from the huge benefits the AFCFTA offers.
We should expand access to funding and support for our startups. While our current venture capital inflow is encouraging, we need to create more local funding sources through public-private partnerships.
We will continue to enhance our digital capabilities as well as streamline our processes to support Nigeria's export growth objective.
Vice President Kashim Shettima, represented by the Minister of Industry, Trade and Investment, Jumoke Oduwole, says Nigeria is positioning itself as Africa's leading digital hub.
In terms of job creation, the World Bank estimates that digital technologies can create over 10 million new jobs in Africa by this year, 2025, primarily in the services sector. Nigeria is solidifying its position as Africa's digital trade leader and now as an African digital trade champion under the AFCFTA by working to strengthen policy harmonization, by aligning national regulations with AFCFTA frameworks, enhancing trade facilitation through digital customs processes, and I'm glad that the CGC is here. I know he's hosting all heads of customs from across Africa in Abuja this year.
The consensus among speakers at this workshop is that Nigeria must take advantage of the enormous natural resources it is endowed with across the 36 states to create job opportunities for its teeming unemployed population. From the presidential villa, Emperor Simon, Channels Television News.
And to other stories, trucks with over 60,000 litres will no longer be allowed to convey petroleum products to different parts of the country. This is part of the measures announced today by the Nigerian Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority to forestall the spate of petrol tanker explosions across the country. The executive director in charge of distribution systems, storage and retail infrastructure of the agency made the announcement after a meeting of the authority with major stakeholders in Abuja. Our correspondent, Dele Omoyeni, has more.
The spate of petrol tanker explosions have been an issue of concern following incidents that have been recorded in parts of the country between December of 2024 and February of 2025. At least 300 lives have been lost in incidents recorded in Enugu, Jigawa, Niger, Oyo, Adamawa, and Delta states. This development prompted the stakeholders meeting with representatives of Depot and Petroleum Marketers Association of Nigeria, DAPMAN, the Nigerian Union of Petroleum and Natural Gas Workers, NUPENG, the Petroleum Products Retail Outlet Owners Association of Nigeria, PETROAN, the Major Oil Marketers Association of Nigeria, MOMAN, and the Nigerian Association of Road Transport Owners, NATO.
By 2024, we had 341 fatalities. And to date, in 2025, from January to yesterday, we had over 121 fatalities. That is of great concern to all of us. And that's why we go for the stakeholder engagement to see what mechanism can you put in place, what policy and regulations can we put in place. And we have to do with all stakeholders so that once we put regulations and policies in place, we have to abide by it in order to address these unnecessary, unacceptable incidences.
The stakeholders convened to review some of the recommendations, and they are joined by representatives from the Nigerian Police, the Department of State Security Services, the Office of the National Security Advisor, the Federal Road Safety Corps, and the Standards Organization of Nigeria, amongst others. The meeting adopts some short-term measures to arrest the situation.
Beginning 1st March, trucks with a capacity in excess of 60,000 liters will not be allowed to load in any loading depot for petroleum products. By Q4 of 2025, we will also preclude the loading or transportation of petroleum products on any truck in excess of 45,000 liters. So that is the breaking news for today. And this is just one out of 10 measures that stakeholders have agreed that need to be addressed if we want to mitigate the high level of trucks in transit accidents.
The authority plans to roll out medium and long-term measures to tackle the menace. Daily Omoyeni, Channels Television News.
Still ahead on the news at 10, Microsoft launches $1 million initiative to train 1 million Nigerians in AI skills over the next 2 years. That's on Business News. Please join us again. Welcome back to the news at 10, coming to you live from Abuja studios. The governor of Edo State, Monday Okpebholo, has expressed deep gratitude to President Bola Tinubu for the love he says the president has shown to the people of Edo State through the projects he has embarked on in the state. The governor spoke during the flag-off of the federal government's dualization and rehabilitation of sections of the Benin-Ekpoma Expressway, a day which coincides with the governor's 100 days in office. The event also had the Minister of Works, David Umahi, and other key stakeholders in attendance.
Dignitaries, including the Deputy Governor of Kogi State, the Minister of Works, National Assembly members, all Progressives Congress leaders from the national and state level, and top Edo State government officials are converged on a section of the Benin-Ekpoma-Auchi-Abuja Highway in Ekpoma, Esan West local government area, Edo State, for one of the activities lined up for the Governor Monday Okpebholo-led administration's first 100 days in office. The dualization of the Benin-Ekpoma-Auchi-Okpila-Okene-Ajakuta Junction Road Section 2 to 4 in Ekpoma being flagged off in this ceremony is President Bola Tinubu's intervention meant to address a challenge that had plagued the highway and its users for decades. A known death trap, notorious for traffic congestion and its attendant results.
We are filling with sharp sand of about 300 mm thick. Before we even introduce the stone base. And the stone base is in 2 layers. The first layer is without is the normal stone base. The last layer of 10 mm will be stabilized with cement of 5%. So that no matter what, no matter the strength coming on top, the surfacing will never break.
The Minister of Works commends Governor Okpebholo and former Governor Adams Oshomole for the bold steps taken towards getting a solution to the problem. He gives a breakdown of the project.
Starting from Benue, we have CBC, that's 53 kilometers. We are taking first one carriageway. We finish it before we go to another one. So what we've awarded is one carriageway, and that's 53 kilometers.
Former Edo State Governor and Senator representing Edo North, Adams Oshomole, recalls the project is promise kept and deserving of gratitude.
You are designing and constructing roads that are meant to last for at least 50 years. That way, Nigeria can have sustainable growth and development, not working on the same road every time.
Governor Okpewolo, versed in the economic deprivation and other limitations the bad road had posed, does not hold back his gratitude to the president for the intervention.
I want to say thank you to Mr. President, the man who remembered our people. I must kneel down to tell him thank you. Baba, thank you. Thank you for this great honor you have bestowed upon our people.
The project is subsequently flagged off amid assurances from the contractors to key stakeholders that quality work would be delivered within the stipulated time. Jessica Luguse, Channels Television News.
100 days already, how time flies. Anne is back to you for the rest of the news at 10.
Thank you, Millicent. Let's now take you back to the story on the Benue Assembly crisis. The Nigerian Bar Association has condemned the resolution by the State House of Assembly directing Governor Hyacinth Ali of Benue State to remove Justice Maurice Ikpebisi as the Chief Judge of the state. In a statement jointly signed by its President, Afa Mosigwe, and the General Secretary, Mobolaji Ojibara, the NBA in Abuja, the NBA described the resolution as inexcusable and a breach of the Constitution. The association emphasized that the House of Assembly of any state lacks the power to remove the chief judge without the involvement of the National Judicial Council. The NBA stresses that the State Assembly's action contravened constitutional provisions and undermined the foundational principles of judicial independence and the rule of law. Meanwhile, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, Femi Falana, has asked the Nigerian Bar Association to sanction the lawyers who are members of the Benue State House of Assembly. Mr. Falana, in a statement, says the NBA is right to condemn the illegal resolution of the House of Assembly, but the association needs to go a step further to recommend the prosecution of the lawyers involved before the Legal Practitioners Disciplinary Committee and the body of benchers. Citing a decision of the Supreme Court, the senior advocates noted that it is still the law that the chief judge of the state cannot be removed from office without prior investigation conducted by the National Judicial Council. To company news, MTN Nigeria made history today, appointing its youngest CEO ever, not a seasoned executive, but a bright young student. Ikenna Ikechukwu, the winner of the 2024 MTN M+ Spelling Bee competition, took the reins as MTN CEO for just one day. Well, the excited student was chauffeured to the company's head office in Ikoyi, Lagos, where he received a grand welcome from HR executives and CEO Carl Toriola himself.
It's a moment of pride and inspiration as a guard of honor welcomes not a seasoned executive, but 15-year-old Ikenna Ikechukwu, winner of the 2024 MTN M+ Spelling Bee, as he steps into the role of MTN CEO for a day. Out of over 43,000 contestants, the student from Glorious Covenant School in Rivers State emerged victorious, and today is experiencing what it is like to lead one of Nigeria's largest telecommunications companies. Ikenna is then ushered into the boardroom where he engages with executives, sharing his insights and learning about the intricacies of running a major corporation.
How is MTN adapting its products and services to ensure young people have better access to technology and learning?
Next, he's led to a panel session where he sits down with select journalists, sharing the secrets to his spelling bee success and inspiring others.
Honestly, I had to skip some classes, yes, because it would actually need that for me to be able to learn all these things. it requires skipping classes, some classes, not that you go attend at all. So you go for, you learn every time. Even sometimes you wake up midnight by 2 a.m. You learn till maybe you won't have in a day you can sleep for just 3 hours or 4.
Today we have with us Ikenna, and we are delighted that he is here. And we hope that this occasion would inspire other young Nigerians like himself.
Ikenna also has a message for those within his age brackets.
In terms of academics, generally, maybe the spelling competition is that you persevere, hard work, determination in whatever you're doing. You have to put in your best.
Ikenna's day as MTN CEO for a day will culminate in visits to various MTN departments and service centers, giving him a first-hand look at customer service and operations.
That must be an exciting experience. Well, let's head to more stories in the world of business. Dominic Iwewu is standing by.
Thank you, Anne. On business news, global tech giant Microsoft has unveiled a $1 million initiative to equip 1 million Nigerians with artificial intelligence skills for the next 2 years. This was announced by Microsoft's Managing Director, Microsoft Nigeria and Ghana, Olatomiwa Williams, during the Microsoft AI Tour in Lagos. The tour was designed to discuss the future potential of AI and its opportunities across various sectors. The domestic equities market recorded a huge rebound in today's session, snapping 2 days of losses. John McQuarrie tells us more.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Stock Market Report. Well, after 3 sessions of profit taking, we've seen that the tide has changed at the close of today's trade, and we see bargain hunting mostly on the top gainers for the day. Boa Foods lost about 10% on Friday alone, and so we see a gain coming back on 9.91% added to the share price to close at 410 naira 50 kobo. Archer Briscoe follows, as well as Etana. Etana is another interesting stock that's been gaining, and then profit taking came on it, so we see a bit of that gain returning today to close at 42 naira 50 kobo. Of course, there'll always be a flip side, so we have the red guys, those who lost today: Union Dicon, Intern Insurance and UPL. They are the top losers for today, but thankfully, after those 3 days of negative trade, we see a gain back at the all-share index, and it's 0.87%, bringing us back to the 108,000 level. Hopefully that will be sustained, and so for the first time this week, we do see the face of the bull.
And that's it on business news. Back to Anne for the rest of the news at 10.
Thank you, Dominic. Still to come on the news at 10, U.S. President Donald Trump launches a fresh attack on Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, calling him a dictator. That's on the foreign scene. Please join us again. Welcome back. Let's join Simon Puse with other international news and around the world in 5.
Good evening and welcome to the channel's studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5.
На жаль, президент Трамп з великою повагою до нього відносимося як до лідера.
Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky says Donald Trump is living in a disinformation space created by Russia. He was speaking at a news conference where he also said he'd rejected the first draft of a rare earth minerals agreement with the US, saying it made no mention of the security guarantees Ukraine sought and demanded 50% of its minerals. Earlier, Trump said he was more confident of a Ukraine peace deal following talks with Russia and Saudi Arabia, from which Kyiv had been excluded. On Tuesday, the US and Russia agreed to appoint teams to start negotiating the end of the war in the first high-level talks between the two countries in almost 3 years. Afterwards, Trump said he was disappointed over Zelensky's complaints about being frozen out, suggesting Ukraine could have made a deal earlier.
You know, people being killed at levels that you've rarely seen, not even close, since the Second World War. And I'm very disappointed. I hear that, you know, they're upset about not having a seat. Well, they've had a seat for 3 years and a long time before that. This could have been settled very easily. Just a half-baked negotiator could have settled this years ago.
The former Brazilian President Jair Bolsonaro has been charged by the country's chief prosecutor with attempting a coup after he was defeated in the 2022 presidential election. The 69-year-old was handed 5 charges over the alleged bid to prevent his successor, President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva, from taking office after a bitter election race. The charges include allegations that he planned to poison Lula and shoot dead Supreme Court Justice Alexander de Moraes. Bolsonaro denies wrongdoing and says he is the victim of political persecution.
Our elders have stated that the verdict forms reflect their individual true verdict.
The rapper A$AP Rocky has been found not guilty of firing a gun at a former friend. A jury in Los Angeles acquitted the musician, whose real name is Rakim Mayers, on 2 felony assault charges that carry up to 24 years in prison.
Rakim Mayers, not guilty.
As the first not guilty verdict was read out on Tuesday, the court rang with screams and clapping. Mr. Mayers dived over a wooden barrier and hugged his family and Rihanna, his long-term partner, to embrace them. Mr. Mayers also hugged his lawyers and appeared to have tears in his eyes as the second not guilty verdict was read out. KFC, the fast food restaurant chain formerly known as Kentucky Fried Chicken, is moving its corporate headquarters in the US from Kentucky to Texas. Yum Brands said it will shift the office from Louisville to Plano, although KFC will keep some operations in Kentucky, including its KFC Foundation. The governor of Kentucky State said, "I am disappointed by this decision and believe the company's founder would be too." In recent years, many companies have relocated to Texas, attracted by the state's lower taxes and business-friendly policies.
Another look at the variety of Karolina Muchova.
Britain's former #1 tennis champion Emma Raducanu was visibly upset during a match at the Dubai Tennis Championships after being approached by a man displaying fixated behaviour.
And let's hope that Raducanu isn't in trouble here. You always worry when she goes to the umpire's chair. It may be because it's a little bit wet out there behind the baseline.
The 22-year-old was in tears as she went to the umpire's chair after the second game of her rain-delayed second-round match on Tuesday.
What is going on, but it doesn't look good, does it, for Raducanu? Appears to be in tears here.
The man was later removed from the tennis court by security. The WTA added it was actively working with Raducanu to ensure her well-being and will provide any necessary support. And Australian authorities are euthanizing around 90 false killer whales which survived a mass stranding on a remote beach in Tasmania. A team of experts at the site said complex conditions had made it impossible to save them. They are part of a pod of 157 whales that had beached near Arthur River in the island's northwest. The rest had died shortly after the stranding. Tasmania has seen a series of mass whale strandings in recent years, including the country's worst ever in 2020, but false killer whales haven't mass stranded there in over 50 years. False killer whales are technically one of the world's largest dolphin species. They can grow up to 6 meters and weigh 1.5 tons. And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the channel's studios in Lagos.
Thank you, Simon. Welcome to Sports News. Borussia Dortmund eased into the last 16 of the Champions League after a goalless draw against Sporting Lisbon on Wednesday sent the German club through on 3-0 aggregate. Cyril Guirassy missed a second-half penalty, but it mattered for nothing as Dortmund were rarely troubled, coasting 3-0 on aggregate. In other results, Kylian Mbappe nets a hat-trick as Real Madrid trashed Manchester City 3-1 to scale through 6-3 on aggregate, and PSG hammered hapless Brest 7-0 for a 10-0 aggregate victory. And that sport is back to you, Anne.
Thank you, Chris. And the main news again. The Senate today summoned the National Security Advisor and other security agencies over allegations that USAID funded terrorist group Boko Haram. That's the news at 10 tonight. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Anne Nwawadu. Good night.